Hello, this is William Michael of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and today I'd like to share a message with students and with parents, of course, but primarily with students about assignments and studies and completing work, getting grades, and so on. In Latin, there's a phrase, festina lente, and it's an interesting phrase. Supposedly, it was used by the Emperor Augustus. And the phrase festina lente means hurry up slowly. Hurry up slowly. Festina lente. And I think it's an important concept that I want to share with students to help students think about their studies. Because when we study, we're struggling with these two different pressures. On the one side, we've only got so much time and we've got to get a lot of work done, so we need to hurry up. But at the same time, that work needs to be done carefully and completely. And so we need to hurry up, but we need to hurry up slowly. We need to be careful and complete. And so this phrase, festina lente, I encourage you to write it on a sheet of paper or an index card and keep it on your desk as you study, because this is the challenge of study. We have to hurry up, but we have to hurry up slowly. We have to get a lot of work done, but we have to do it well at the same time. And as I say that, you can realize that the challenge in studies is finding a golden mean between getting a lot of work done and getting quality work done. If we pursue quality in a way that's not reasonable, we simply don't get any work done. This is the problem with perfectionism. They pretend like they're great students because they're so concerned with every detail, but what's really happening is that they're not actually getting anything done. So we can't be perfectionists and allow that to get in the way of our progress. We've got to move forward. We've got to get work done. But at the same time, there's got to be a level of quality. What you've got to ask yourself is, how much time do I have? And how much quality does that time allow? One of the challenges in writing, especially in college, and this is a problem just even in discussion, in any sort of work, any sort of conversation we have. Someone will ask a question, and we'll want to solve that question once and for all. We'll want to solve every question in the world when we answer or write an essay or make a video or anything. And we've got to learn just to focus on one topic at one time and be content with a certain level of quality that's good enough for that moment. And when you're studying, it's the beginning of your studies. If you're serious about pursuing wisdom and mastering the classical liberal arts or the philosophical sciences or the theological sciences, you've got your whole life to pursue that mastery, and hopefully you'll use your life to pursue that mastery. But there's sort of a what needs to be done right now mode that we work in, and then there's a long-term what I'd like to accomplish mode that we need to keep in mind and continue working towards. Even in the work of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, this is what I do every day. I've got urgent work that has to get done for students right now, today, and then I've got work that I'm working on little by little because I have a goal to accomplish something and I'm going to pursue it over the next 10 years. So we've got this pressure to get a lot of work done, but we've also got to learn to do the work well. But we can't do it too well because then we won't get anything done. And if we try to get more done and don't do it well, it'll just get sent back to us and we'll have to start over again. So we need to make haste slowly, festina lente. Now, when I do my weekly grading work, I grade hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of assignments. And there are three basic groups of students, three basic groups of assignments, I should say, that I see as I do this grading and review work. The first group are the students who don't study well, just sort of throw stuff onto the assignment and submit it, and I look at it and I give it a 0 or a 25% and I send it back and I say, this just isn't acceptable. That's one group. They don't study, they do poor work. Normally their parents don't supervise them, they don't check their work before they submit it. They're just always going back to step one and they never make any progress, even though they try to hurry without studying the lesson. They make no progress. The second group of students is on the opposite side of the spectrum. They're the students who study very carefully, learn everything in every lesson, and do excellent work, submit very clear, complete answers to every question in their assignment, follow all the instructions. They're careful with their writing. They do everything they can nicely, and they get the work done, and they move forward. Now, in that group, there are two different kinds of students. In the group that gets, let's say, a 100% score on the first try, there are two different kinds of students. There's one group of students who are perfectionists, and they might only submit an assignment once every month, but it will be perfect and beautiful and excellent. But what I tell them is, you're doing too much. You're going too far. This is actually too excellent. You need to learn to find a balance between getting lessons complete and submitting quality work. And they simply take too long and they do things at too high of a quality, considering how much work needs to be done, how many lessons and courses need to be studied during our school years. So that's one group of students who gets 100%. And then there's the other group that actually has tempered their standards and understands what they need to do to earn a 100%, how carefully they need to study, how carefully they need to complete their assignment so that they can satisfy the standards, learn the content, but keep moving. And that's the ideal group. That's the group that really has things figured out. And then there's a third group. This is the middle group in between those who don't study and do poor work and those who receive 100% scores on their assignments. And it's the group of students who sometimes they study. I can tell that they study because they wouldn't even know what they write in their assignments unless they did some study. But what I can tell is they don't study completely, or they study parts, and then when they get to the assignment, there are certain questions they like to do, and then there are certain questions they like to skip, or they like to write quick, lazy answers for, or they might answer a question off the top of their head. These are students who are trying to hurry. They're trying to hurry through the lessons. They're not concerned enough about quality. They're worrying too much about how many lessons they're getting done. And for those students, they usually get a 25 score or a 50 score, maybe a 75 score, but they have to go back and fix their assignments. They have to go back and review their lessons. And so trying to be quick, they end up being slower. And so what I want to draw attention to is the one group that I want students to try to imitate is the group of students that can get a 100% score on their first try on an assignment because they study carefully, they complete the assignment carefully, but they don't go too far, and they also don't try to cheat and hurry through the assignment or hurry through the lesson. They find the perfect balance, and finding that balance is a very important study skill that you need to learn. You need to learn how to get good scores, how to satisfy the goals of an assignment or of a lesson, but you need to do it in a quick way so that you can keep making progress. Anyone can make a perfect score if they take 6 months to study and complete one assignment, but that's not a good student. And in the same time, someone can try to fly through assignments and brag about how many assignments they get turned in, but what they don't tell you is that those assignments all get returned with bad scores, and they've got to either do them again or accept low scores. And there's no excuse for low scores in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. So there's really only one right way to do this work, and it's to try to work to get a 100% score on every assignment, but not go any further. Don't try to be a perfectionist. Don't go far into excessive detail. Don't spend days and days and days working on an assignment afraid that you might have something not totally perfect, or there's more you could say, or there's another example of a figure of speech in Homer's Iliad that you'd like to include. You have to learn to temper your standards, because you've got to do both. You've got to make progress in lessons and courses, and you've also got to do so with good quality. So the idea I want you to have in your head as a student is festina lente. Hurry up slowly. Get the work done, get the assignments turned in, but try to get a perfect score on your first attempt. Now, what I'd like to recommend is that you sort of experiment with your assignments. Experiment with your assignments. The first experiment I'd like you to do is I'd like you to work to study your lesson carefully and submit your assignment and answer it. Do everything as completely and perfectly as you can and submit it, and try to earn a 100% score on your first try. Try to do that, because once you earn a 100% score, you know where the bar is at. You know what you have to do to get a 100% on your first try. Then after you've done that, after you know how to get a 100% score and you've proven that you can get a 100% score on your first try, then on the next lesson, try to do it more quickly. Try to do that more quickly. Maybe lower the standard a little bit, still get all the questions answered, do everything well, but just draw it back a little bit so you can move through a little bit faster. And try to find a perfect balance where you can get lessons done and get a 100% score, but you can do it relatively quickly. Okay, so we can festina lente, make haste slowly. So that's what I want to challenge students to do. I want to warn you, when I'm grading assignments, if you don't study carefully and answer the questions from the lesson, if you're not neat and thorough in you're never going to pass an assignment. Never. You're never going to get it past me. I'm never going to approve any poor quality work. For me, it's a matter of conscience. I feel like in my service of God as a teacher, I cannot allow students to receive good scores for work that's not done well. I can't allow students to cheat. I can't allow students to copy and paste answers. I can't give a poor assignment a good score. It would be lying. So I'm never going to allow you to do that, and you should know that as a student, you're not going to get low quality work past the grading process. But at the same time, I'm not looking for perfectionism. I understand. I'm a student myself. I understand the challenges of studies. I understand the time pressure. I understand the stress and just how much work there is to get done. You're busy. There's other things to do. I understand all that, and I respect that. And that's why I'm encouraging you to try to find balance where you can get a 100% score, but you can do it relatively quickly. That's really the skill that you need to learn to develop. And you're going to need that in college or in whatever career you work in. You're going to have to learn to not only do things well, but to do things as quickly as possible. Now, let me give you an illustration to help you see what I'd like you to think about as you work in your studies. When businesses come out with a new invention or some new product, what they'll do is they'll be so worried about selling it to customers because it's new, it's different. They'll be so worried about selling it, and they'll be so worried about people having a good experience with it that they'll make it as perfect as they possibly can. They'll make it as strong as they can. They'll make it as beautiful as they can. They'll use the highest quality materials they can find. They will make the best possible version of that product when it's something new. And so people will buy it and they'll use it and they'll love it and they'll say, "Oh, this is so great. This is such a great product. We're going to buy more," and it gets popular and people all over the world start buying them. But then what the company starts to do is they start to realize that we're making our products too good. They're actually too well made. because it's very expensive for us to make it like this. It's very difficult for us to make it like this. And what the company will do is they'll say, we need to sort of pull back a little bit and make our product a little less good, because it will still be good enough to make everybody happy, but we're spending too much and we're putting too much into it to make it available. We need to make it simpler. We need to make it cheaper. We need to make it better in whatever different way they might consider. But what they do is they simplify the product. They pull the product back. They make it out of a little flimsier material, or they change some of the design so it's not as fancy, or they make it a little slower, but it's still fast enough for everyone's needs. And they'll pull the product back until they finally get the product to a place where they can produce them in large quantities, make a profit, and everyone is happy. Prices come down, and so on. So everyone ends up happy. Some people complain because they remember the original products, but most people are happy because they become more affordable, they're available to more people, and so on. So there's always this initial process of making the perfect product to sort of break into the market and get attention. And then once they've established a successful product, the company has to find ways to simplify it and make it sustainable. And that's what I'm asking you to do with your assignments. At first, you've got to learn how to get a perfect score. When I was in college, I had to figure out a method of studying, how I could get a perfect score on my tests, how I could get the highest possible grades. I had to figure out how to prepare, how to study, so that when it was time for exams or essays, I could get perfect scores. And then once I figured out that method, what was necessary to get the best scores, then I had to figure out how to make it more and more efficient and figure out what I needed to do and what I didn't need to do. And that's what you're going to need to do. You have to learn how to be excellent students. And it's not just a matter of being perfect, because perfectionists usually just don't get anything done. It's a matter of learning how to do the work well enough to satisfy the objectives of a lesson at this point in your life, but to do so as quickly as possible so you can also make as much progress as possible. Because again, you've got your whole life to study these subjects, and by God's grace, many of you will choose to devote your whole lives to these studies. But right now, during your school years, you've got a couple different things to think about. You've got to get your high school studies finished. You've got to get a high school diploma finished. You've got to think about college and what's necessary for college admission. You've got to think about your future vocation or career and what you're going to do and what's necessary for that. You've got to balance all of this stuff and find a way to be successful where you balance quality and speed. That's the real challenge that you've got to understand. And I want you to know that as a teacher and as the one reviewing and grading your work, I understand that. I understand that challenge, and I'm looking to help you with that. I'm not going to be unreasonable in my standards with grading. I'm going to be looking, no baloney, I'm looking to see that you studied the lesson carefully and completely. You're not going to get past me without studying. But at the same time, I know that there's a time restriction on the work that we have to do, and you've got to get these assignments done. So I'm going to be as generous as I can be, honestly, as generous as I can be, to help you get through the lessons and give you good scores. But I'm going to be looking for proof that you're studying and that you're answering the questions and completing the assignments from the lesson content, demonstrating your mastery of the content. So remember the phrase, remember this illustration, festina lente, hurry up slowly. Try to get as much done, but make sure you do it with good quality. And if you find that balance, that's when you can be a successful student, not just in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, not just in high school, but in college and beyond. This is the most important skill that you need to learn, how to balance real life speed and quality. I hope that's helpful. God bless.